Hey guys, welcome back to another Dragonheir Silent Gods video and welcome to Season 4. In this video today I'm going to be going through all of the new heroes added to the game for Season 4, but before I jump into that I just want to say a huge thank you to Dragonheir Silent Gods for sponsoring this video. If you are interested in giving the game a go, please do click the link in the description and get involved today. So, the new heroes that have been added, there is 25 in total I think, off the top of my head, 5, 10, 15, 20, yep, so 25 new heroes ranging from rare to legendary. There's no new damage types this season, so it's just kind of fleshing out the existing ones. So we've got some Burn, we've got some Thunderbolt, we've got some Ice Blast, we've got some Aura, I think we've got some Poison as well. So yeah, it's just kind of fleshing out what we've already got instead of having something new to worry about. So I'm just going to run through all of the new heroes and we'll have a look at them and kind of see what they're going to be like. So first of all, we've got a Enlightenment battle, 90 in City of Trials battles, massive Aura there, that's going to be really impactful. Battle skill here deals 100% attack fire damage to nearby enemies every 3 seconds with a 75% chance of inflicting burn on them for 10 seconds. When any target is inflicted with burn, the hero gains morale up to 20 stacks. When possessing 20 stacks, grants 20 stacks of morale to all burn allies, so an extra 20% attack for any of your burn teams. That's going to be really useful, as well as obviously all those burn debuffs. Burning to Ashes deals 240% attack and 3000% enlightenment fire damage to nearby enemies. When hitting enemies with burn, the next battle skill's recharge time is reduced by 50%. Next up, we've got the ultimate skill, deals 450% attack fire damage to all enemies with a 75% chance to inflict burn for 10 seconds. When hitting enemies under burn, additionally deals 600% attack derivative damage to them. So, Pakeston is really interesting here. Obviously, he looks absolutely insane, but is a very strong burn enabler by the looks of it, but also could be a good damage dealer himself. I will try that out. Obviously, all testing I'm going to be doing over the next few days, but for now, I'm just having a look at the skills that they actually have. So next up, we've got Majtan, another burn legendary. So first of all, we've got 45% attack in Grand Gladiator arena battles as an aura. Passive skill here deals 250% attack fire damage to all enemies as the battle starts with a 100% chance of inflicting 3 stacks of burn for 10 seconds. When burn inflicted on any enemies expires or is dispelled, the hero gains 1 stack of sparkle, up to 3 stacks. For each stack of sparkle, the hero gains 0.5% damage reduction, while the hero's skills ignore 3% of the target's defense. So that's quite cool. Obviously, that stacks up to 30 times, and there is a 60% chance for basic attacks to inflict burns for 10 seconds. Next up, we've got Candle in the Wind, so 7-second recharge time. The hero gains 25% max HP healing. The enemy who possesses the most stacks of burn grants the same amount of sparkle to the hero, up to 5 stacks. Then the heroes deal 500% attack fire damage to the enemy with the most stacks of burn. Ultimate skill here, Blossom in Sand, deals 620% attack fire damage to nearby enemies. If enemies possess burn, the hero additionally gains 20% attack up for 10 seconds. The burn inflicted by fire and stone ignores resistance in the next 15 seconds. So I'm going to be trying out everything, but Majtan looks to be quite interesting. Obviously, all that ignore defense could be really good in terms of a damage dealer option for burn teams. Obviously, I'll feed that back once I've done some more testing, but on paper, Majtan looks to be pretty good. Next up, we've got Feliciberta, a ice support. So on her aura, 45% attack in Grand Gladiator arena battles. Passive skill, as the battle starts, inflicts Datora Mark on the enemy with the highest attack. When the enemy under Datora Mark dies, reselect a target. When enemies under Datora Mark gain a buff, reduces the recharge time of the hero's battle skill by 20%, and the hero recharges ultimate energy by 20%. So you're going to obviously reduce the frequency of their battle skills and boost more ultimates from your Feliciberta. So the battle skill here moves to the enemy with the highest attack, removes their shield and steals 1 buff from them, dealing 200% attack and 200% enlightenment cold damage. This skill ignores 50% of the enemy's resistance. When hitting enemies under frozen, the hero steals their shield instead of removing it. Next up, we've got the ultimate skill, deals 500% attack and 500% enlightenment cold damage to enemies within range, with a 75% chance to inflict frozen on them for 5 seconds. This effect ignores 20% of the enemy's resistance. The frozen inflicted by this skill also blocks the enemies from resurrection upon death. Next up, we've got Miro, so a new Ice Blast legendary. First of all, on his passive skill, if the hero possesses ice crystals, after releasing the battle skill, he consumes 1 stack of the ice crystals to release the battle skill again. When attacking enemies, every stack of map pin the hero has grants the current attack an extra 20% crit damage. When attacking enemies with full stacks of map pin, ignores 60% of their defense, as well as obviously the 100% extra crit damage you'd get from having max stacks. The hero's basic attacks will attack enemies with the most map pins first. On the battle skill here, deals 300% attack cold damage to the enemy and inflicts 1 stack of map pin on them. Obviously it's quite a low multiplier, but given the fact that he's going to be spamming that and obviously gaining all of that damage bonus from the map pins and the ignore defense, that is really strong. Getting to the max of 5 stacks shouldn't take too long at all. That's one I'm really interested to test actually. Next up we've got Treasure, Mine It. Deals 810% attack cold damage to the enemy and converts 25% of the damage dealt to the hero's HP. Every stack of map pin on the enemy increases the conversion rate by 5%. So like I said, I think Miro is going to be really interesting to try out as a damage dealer to compare between Beldel and Girthin. I have a feeling he'll probably be kind of Girthin level damage, which will be really cool to see. Next up we've got Perseus, a support from the Necrosis element and who looks absolutely insane again. I'm really liking the unique designs so far in Season 4. So we've got a HP aura, 30% in all battles. On the passive skill, basic attacks deal damage twice. When dealing damage to enemies with skills, there is a 100% chance to inflict fall and poison up to 30 times. So that's a new debuff. Each stack decreases attack by 1% and attack speed by 1.5%. So eventually we're going to have 30% attack reduction there. Obviously pair that with the fact that it's not attack penalty. We can also have attack penalty on top of that. It's a huge amount of attack reduction and it's going to make bosses significantly easier, obviously reducing their damage by a ton. Next up we've got the battle skill, deals 100% attack necrotic damage to enemies 4 times and reduces their ultimate energy by 25%. And then on the ultimate skill, rushes to an enemy and strikes them 12 times, each dealing 70% attack necrotic damage. There is a 100% chance to dispel all buffs from them, with a 75% chance to inflict stun on them for 5 seconds, and a 75% chance to inflict buff prohibition on them for 10 seconds. The hero gains 30% max HP healing simultaneously. The enemy's HP limit will be reduced by 20% of the damage dealt, no more than 40% of the enemy's max HP. This is invalid for bosses, and the enemy with the highest attack will be attacked first. That is insane. 12 attacks makes her undoubtedly the most reliable Witches Remains applier in the game. So that's going to be cool to see. Now we've got Asteon, another Necrosis support. So 45% defense in Grand Gladiator Arena battles. Then we've got the passive skill. As the battle starts, the hero has a 100% chance to inflict silence for 10 seconds on the nearest enemy and steals 30% of their HP and 30% of their defense. 50% of the stolen attributes will be transferred to the ally with the highest attack. HP stolen should not exceed 100% of the hero's max HP. So that's instantly going to significantly weaken the enemy tanks or whoever's closest to where you place Asteon. As well as that, it's going to increase the survivability of your damage dealers. So your highest attack hero is going to gain a huge stat boost, allowing you to worry less about their defensive stats and more into their offensive. On the battle skill, deals 300% attack necrotic damage to enemies within range with a 50% chance to inflict stun for 3 seconds. Grants crit hit resistance to the ally with the highest attack for 5 seconds. Once again, obviously keeping your damage dealers alive. And the hero recharges ultimate energy by 5% upon hitting 1 enemy. On the ultimate skill, it summons a domain that lasts for 10 seconds at the target's location, dealing 60% attack necrotic damage to enemies within range every 1 second. Heals all allies by 3.5% max HP simultaneously every second. When enemies within range gain a buff, there is a 40% chance to replicate the buff with a random debuff. So instead of the buff, they'd get either attack penalty, buff prohibition, recharging speed penalty, or healing prohibition. So this is a really cool hero. Definitely one I'm interested in getting because it looks incredible. But also, obviously, the kit is incredibly interesting and one I want to try out. Now we've got Sharla, a Aura legendary. So this one interests me instantly because I have the exclusive from Aura. So I'm kind of looking to bolster my Aura team a little bit. So first of all, we've got 30% attack in all battles. That's always useful. Then we've got a passive skill that enters Blaze state when possessing 100 Aura energy. When aura allies consume aura energy, recharges 5% ultimate energy and grants 1 stack of crit damage up to the aura ally with the most attack, and Sharla herself up to 20 stacks. This effect can only be triggered once every 5 seconds. So we can't see how much crit damage each stack is going to be there, but there's a potential that this gives a huge amount of damage to your main damage dealer for aura. So for my case, Aemon Leda, the exclusive, she could be a very strong enabler here for her. On her battle skill, grants 15 aura energy and deals radiant damage to the enemy and the nearby enemies. The hero gains 10% extra aura energy when hitting only one enemy. While in the blaze state, consumes 5 aura energy and deals an additional 4% target's max HP radiant damage, which can be no more than 200% of the hero's attack. On the ultimate skill, the hero gains 30 aura energy and releases an energy wave that can bounce between enemies up to 4 times. Each bounce deals 350% attack radiant damage to them. If the energy wave does not bounce after being released, 40% of the consumed ultimate energy will be returned. And while in blaze state, consumes 20 aura energy to deal an extra 5% target's max HP radiant damage, and the number of times this can bounce is increased to 6 times instead of the 4. So I am definitely going to be trying out Charlotte to see if she's a good enabler or even a good damage dealer as well for aura. They really do need some love, but I do really like playing with the exclusive legendary, so I'm hoping that she could be a good addition to a team that I'm using. Next up, we've got Ymir, a support hero from the Radiance element. So 45% crit damage in Grand Gladiator arena battles as the aura. Passive skill, every 15 times of damage dealt or taken by the hero and his clones, they will enter an undispellable invisibility for 3 seconds. A clone will be summoned at the same time. As the battle starts, gains invisibility and summons a clone, up to 5 clones on the battlefield at the same time. Okay. So the battle skill places a clone near the enemy with the highest attack, deals 300% attack radiant damage to nearby enemies with the clone as the center, with a 100% chance to inflict taunt on them for 3.5 seconds. Obviously that taunt is going to mean they're taking damage, which is going to help you to rotate through this passive skill faster. The ultimate skill jumps to the target area and deals 640% attack radiant damage to enemies within range, with a 75% chance to inflict attack penalty 2 on them for 10 seconds. Meanwhile, the hero gains attack speed up for 10 seconds and enhances his basic attacks for 12 seconds. In this period, basic attacks deal 75% attack radiant damage to enemies twice and heal the ally and all clones by 5% of their max HP each time. So that's quite cool. It'd be interesting to see how much damage those clones do and whether Ymir's not really a support, more of a kind of Sigrid type damage dealer. Yeah, that would be a fun one to test out. Next up, we've got Mashtor, who looks absolutely incredible as a lightning defense champion. So first of all, we've got the HP aura, 45% in Grand Gladiator arena battles. The passive skill here, as the battle starts, grants Great River's favor to the ally with the highest crit damage. The ally under Great River's favor gains a 10% max HP shield for 5 seconds when taking damage, and Mashtor takes 60% of that damage instead. This effect can only take place once every 12 seconds. Whenever taking damage for the ally, Mashtor recharges his ultimate energy by 20% and has a 100% chance to inflict taunt on the enemy with the most ultimate energy for 3 seconds. If Mashtor's HP is higher than the enemy's, this debuff inflicted cannot be resisted. Interesting, so you don't need to build him with any accuracy as long as you build him with a huge amount of HP. Given the fact he has nearly 47,000 base HP, that's not going to be hard. River God's Verdict deals 240% attack and 8% max HP lightning damage to the enemy with the most ultimate energy and reduces their ultimate energy by 20%. If the enemy's ultimate energy is still higher than 50% after being reduced, there is a 100% chance to inflict stun on them for 5 seconds. And once again, it can't be resisted if he's got more HP. Afterwards, Mashtor and the ally under Great River's favor will choose this enemy as the target to attack. Then we've got the ultimate skill, strikes the enemy 3 times, with each strike dealing 200% attack, 4% max HP lightning damage. The first strike has a 100% chance to inflict attack penalty 2 for 10 seconds. Second strike, 100% chance to inflict recharging speed penalty for 10 seconds. And the third strike with a 100% chance to inflict accuracy penalty 2 for 10 seconds. If Mashtor's HP is higher than the enemy's, the debuff inflicted cannot be resisted. Then grants control immunity and crit hit resistance for 10 seconds to all allies. If the enemy is defeated or possesses 3 or more debuffs, Mash Tor grants a 12% max HP shield to the allies under Great River's favour. That's a lot of information in an ultimate skill there. So 3 debuffs, control immunity, crit hit resistance, and shields. I mean, that's incredibly cool. Like I said, his base HP is actually ridiculous how high it is. So it'll be interesting to see how high you can actually get that. Next up, we've got Orfena, a Thunderbolt legendary. So Thunderbolt, unfortunately, are a little bit sparse, especially if you don't have Pakunte, the legendary exclusive. You might as well not bother. And so maybe Orfena can change that. So first of all, we've got a 60 enlightenment in all battles aura. Loving the T-pose, by the way. Okay, her head moves. Interesting. Oh, you can see guns on the side there. So she's got guns and a moving head, but outside of that, she is in a T-pose. So on her passive skill, when dealing damage to enemies with basic attacks, there is a 75% chance to refresh their electrocuted and launch Thunderbolt at them once, which triggers the electrocuted damage once. Then on her battle skill, she strikes the enemy 3 times, each dealing 175% attack lightning damage and having a 60% chance to inflict electrocuted on them for 6 seconds. When enemies are under electrocuted, this damage ignores 30% of their defense. On her ultimate skill, enters overload state and gains attack speed up 2 for 15 seconds. While in the overload state, basic attacks can shoot 2 extra bullets to deal 300% attack lightning damage, with each bullet prioritizing a different target. And okay, she's facing backwards now. Interesting. So like I said, unless you've got Pakunte, Thunderbolt is unfortunately quite underwhelming, but she might change that. I don't know that she will. But if nothing else, she's going to be a really strong enabler for anybody with Pakunte. Obviously, a lot of stacks for your Pakunte's damage is going to be coming from all of these electrocuted debuffs. So that'll be really interesting to try. What is her head doing? Oh, okay, right. That's creepy. Let's move on. So we've got Hauramar here, a poison support. Resistance 50 in all battles. Passive skills very long. Passive skill, as the battle starts, summons Dark Cloud. Hauramar cannot gain extra attack speed, but Dark Cloud will launch additional attacks following Hauramar's basic attacks. Dark Cloud has a 10% chance to inflict buff prohibition on enemies for 5 seconds. The chance of inflicting buff prohibition by Dark Cloud depends on Hauramar's resistance. Every 10 resistance increases the chance by 1%. When Hauramar is on the battlefield, enemies' ultimate energy obtained through skills and artifacts will be reduced by 80%. And Dark Cloud deals 100% attack poison damage following Hauramar's basic attacks. Okay, so obviously you want to build them with very high resistance to make sure you're placing buff prohibition frequently. Next up, we've got the battle skill. Commands Dark Cloud to deal 350% attack poison damage to the enemy with the highest attack, with a 75% chance to inflict attack penalty 2 on them for 5 seconds, and 100% chance to inflict oriented taunt on them for 3 seconds. Oriented Taunt is a new debuff, so the unit is forced to launch basic attacks on the enemy with the highest max HP. That's cool, so it'll force them onto your tank instead of having to have your tank have the control themselves. Next up, we've got deal 700% attack poison damage to all enemies with a 75% chance to inflict recharging speed penalty, and Oriented Charm, which just like the Taunt is just going to force them to attack the on the lowest max bit. Did I read that one wrong? Oh, so Taunt is going to attack. Oh, okay, right. So sorry, when Charm, they're attacking their own team, so they're going to attack the lowest HP enemy when they're charmed. So that's really cool. Help pick off some of the damage dealers potentially for 10 seconds. Ultimate energy will be reduced by 20% as well. So that's a really interesting kit. I'm going to need to play around with it to see kind of how strong it is, but it sounds quite cool. So next up, we've got Calavera. So Calavera is actually the event champion for event hero for season 4. So just like we've had with Ardreth, Uteor, and Aladia in season 3, throughout the second month of the season, you'll be able to earn towards getting Calavera. So first of all, on her passive skill, when casting a skill, a temporary illusion is briefly generated at the hero's location. This illusion will follow the hero as they cast and produce additional effects. Not sure what those effects are, but we'll hopefully find out. So on her battle skill, dispels 1 debuff from each nearby ally and grants recovery over time to them for 5 seconds. Illusion spellcasting has a 75% chance to dispel 1 buff from each nearby enemy, with a 50% chance to inflict charmed on them for 3 seconds. So this is almost like a Nathaniel-esque kind of battle skill. So dispelling 1 debuff and then giving recovery over time. On the ultimate skill, we've got heals all allies by 550% defense and grants them defense up 2 for 10 seconds. Illusion spellcasting deals 510% attack poison damage to all enemies with a 100% chance to inflict attack penalty 2 for 10 seconds. So this is very much like Garius, the obviously Radiant's epic. He heals by 600% of his defense for all allies, but 550% is still huge. Then also giving defense up and potentially attack penalty. And then obviously we're getting some more healing and dispelling from here. So, I mean, realistically, Calavera is very much a souped up Garius, slightly less healing on the ultimate, but probably very good with the Staff legendary artifact as well. But obviously the best bit is a different element. So a hero that everybody can acquire from the events that's going to be able to help support your teams significantly. So definitely one to watch. I'll test this out and use Calavera in a separate video based on the event throughout the course of the test server. So that is all of the new legendaries. Now onto the new epics. We've got a few here. We've got Ashkar, who is a fire support. We've got a 24% attack in all battles aura. His passive skill, when the hero tries to inflict debuffs or control effects to the enemies, yet the effects are resisted or invalidated, the hero gains 15% max HP healing and has a 100% chance of inflicting fear on nearby enemies for 3 seconds, which can only take effect once every 10 seconds. On his battle skill, deals 300% attack fire damage to the target and nearby enemies with a 15% chance to inflict recharging speed penalty on them for 5 seconds. After dealing damage, if the enemy's HP is lower than 60%, additionally reduces their ultimate energy by 20%. So all about control so far. Ultimate skill here deals 600% attack and 10% max HP fire damage to enemies within range, with a 75% chance to inflict taunt on them for 5 seconds. When successfully inflicting taunt on them, there is a 100% chance to inflict attack penalty 2 on them for 10 seconds. So Ashkar is all about control and support, potentially very good for things like Pillar of Trials, Fey Meander, where you're looking for that additional control to help you get through the waves. Next up, we've got Aenin, another one who is in the T-pose. I hope her head doesn't do funky things as well. It does. Okay, so we've got a passive skill here. When dealing damage to enemies under burn, removes 3 stacks of burn from them and deals an extra 150% fire damage. The skill only takes effect to the same enemy once every 3 seconds. So on the battle skill Surprise Raid, shoots a bullet that can bounce up to 4 times between enemies, dealing 165% attack fire damage, with a 75% chance to inflict 2 stacks of burn for 10 seconds. Enemies under burn will be bounced and attacked first. Next up, we've got the ultimate skill, shoots 3 waves of bullets, each dealing 200% attack fire damage to enemies within range. When enemies are hit and are under burn, deals 125% attack fire damage to them and nearby allies. So unfortunately with this kit, she's not going to be very useful to use with the exclusive for burn or the epic Arases, because they work around exploding the burns that are on the targets. So if she's every 3 seconds going to be removing stacks of burn, her head's creepy. It's really not going to help you to build up those stacks to then obviously explode them. But as a standalone damage dealer in a burn team, there is a chance that she could be quite good. I'll have to try that out. Hopefully once she's fixed. That's weird. So now we've got Nadja, a Ice Blast epic. So all allies crit damage is increased by 48% in all battles. That is an insanely strong aura for an epic. So on her passive skill, we've got the usual bit that we're used to with Ice Blast. So obviously if she's got an Ice Crystal, she'll repeat the Ice Blast. But when possessing 3 and above stacks of Ice Crystal, her skills will have additional effects. So on the battle skill here, so kind of the bread and butter of Ice Blast, deals 250% attack cold damage to an enemy. Every stack of Ice Crystal on the hero increases the damage dealt by 10%. Additional effect, additionally deals 4% targets max HP cold damage no more than 200% of the hero's attack. So if you've got over 3 Ice Crystals, she's going to do that extra attack there. Then we've got the ultimate skill here, throws an Ice Lance at an enemy to deal 600% cold damage to them and the nearby enemies. Upon hitting each enemy, the hero has a 30% chance to obtain 1 stack of Ice Crystal. The additional effect is she gains a 15% attack up for 10 seconds. So I'm a big fan of Ice Blast, so I'm looking forward to trying out this one. Not sure how she'll kind of fare compared to Gerthin as a damage dealer, She's definitely not an enabler, so I'm hoping she can kind of compete with Girthin slightly. Next up, we've got Mirror, a summon epic. Okay, so 24% attack in all battles. The passive skill here, Phantom Evocation, summons a Phantom Eater to assist in the battle as the battle starts. The hero takes on 25% damage for the Phantom Eater, and when the hero gains a buff, the Phantom Eater also gains the same buff. On her battle skill here, commands the Phantom Eater to attack the enemy with the highest attack, dealing 360% necrotic damage to them and nearby enemies. Afterwards, the Phantom Eater will choose this enemy as the target to attack. If the Phantom Eater is dead, it deals 360% attack necrotic damage to the enemy with the highest attack. On her ultimate skill here, it grants 20% attack up to the hero for 10 seconds, and obviously to her Phantom Eater as well. Deals 350% attack necrotic damage to the enemy with the highest attack. Damage ignores 30% of the enemy's defense. The hero commands the Phantom Eater to deal another 350% attack necrotic damage to the current enemy, which ignores 30% of the enemy's defense. If the Phantom Eater is dead, summons another Phantom Eater at this enemy's location. The hero gains 30% ultimate energy. So it's really interesting to see that they can make this summon it back. Unfortunately, Isotarian, the free summoner epic, if his summon dies, it doesn't come back. So I'm glad to see they've fixed that mistake on Mirror. I'm not a huge fan of summoners, but I will try her out to see if she's any good. Next up, we've got Tarula, a Radiant support. So no aura here, but a passive skill. When successfully dispelling any debuff, heals the ally with the currently lowest percentage of HP by 10% of the target's max HP plus Enlightenment by 1200%. Battle skill deals 320% attack radiant damage to enemies within range with a 100% chance to dispel one buff from them. Then we've got ultimate skill, dispels all debuffs from the ally with the highest attack and grants them debuff immunity and control immunity for 10 seconds. Unfortunately, with that being a single target skill, it's not that useful. So yeah, that's a bit unfortunate that it's not going to go on everybody. It would be very strong if it did, but then again, there's people who dispel all debuffs and heal at the same time, so maybe not so much. Next up, we've got Thalorian, a Dauntless epic. So 30% attack in City of Trials battles. Passive skill, basic attacks have a 20% chance to trigger a double hit, and every 1% attack speed will increase the trigger chance by 0.2%. The total trigger chance is capped at 50%. Battle skill here, strikes an enemy twice, each dealing 220% attack lightning damage. The skill is regarded as a basic attack. Meanwhile, grants attack speed up 1 to all Dauntless allies for 5 seconds. On the ultimate skill, strikes an enemy 4 times, each dealing 210% attack lightning damage. This skill is regarded as a basic attack. The subsequent 5 times of basic attacks are guaranteed to trigger double hits. So the next 5 basic attacks afterwards are going to trigger the passive and make sure they double hit. So that is really quite cool. Lots of hits from Thalorian. Could be really interesting to see in a Dauntless team with somebody like Avelios or Shoutar, where they're obviously gaining derivative damage based on your auto attacks from the rest of your team. Then we've got Dino, a poison epic. So first of all, 48 Enlightenment in all battles. A passive skill here, basic attacks have a 60% chance to inflict poison for 15 seconds. Battle skill, shoots 3 arrows at the current enemy, each dealing 120% attack poison damage to them, and with a 75% chance to inflict poison for 15 seconds. That'll be 3 poisons, that'll be really good. Obviously it books up to 100% chance. So basic attacks are going to be frequently placing it. That's going to place 3. So on the ultimate skill, shoots 1 arrow at the current enemy and deals 500% attack poison damage to them. For every stack of poison on the enemy, the hero deals an additional 20% attack derivative damage to them. After that, grants the hero attack speed up 2 for 10 seconds, obviously to place more poisons. Interesting. Dino could be relatively good, obviously not Lothair level, but if you can cap your poisons out and extend them with somebody like, I don't need to, it's Corrin the epic, who can extend the duration of poisons, and then you're potentially hitting an additional 40 times here, which is really cool, as long as you've got somebody who can actually help you to place that many poison debuffs. So Dino's definitely one I'm going to try out. I'm quite intrigued to see how that gets on. Next up, we've got Pearl, a poison support. I was going to say ice there, because looks a little bit like Shinna. So on the passive skill, when any ally takes an AoE damage, dispels 1 debuff from all allies. This skill only takes effect once every 5 seconds. That's really strong. On the battle skill then, deals 400% attack poison damage to the target with a 75% chance to inflict silence on them for 7.5 seconds. And then finally on the ultimate skill, 715% attack poison damage to enemies within range, with a 100% chance to dispel one buff from them. Hero also has a 75% chance to inflict healing prohibition and buff prohibition for 10 seconds. I mean, that's a really good ultimate, but I keep thinking about this. That is a very strong passive skill. Anytime you take AoE damage, dispelling one debuff from all allies. That's going to be really, really good to use, especially for people who don't have kind of prolific AoE cleansers. So next up, we've got Alistair, a support from the fire element. So we're on to the rares now. When inflicting debuffs or control to enemies, the hero reduces their ultimate energy by 15%. When their ultimate energy is reduced to 0 by this effect, the hero obtains an additional 20% ultimate energy. Battle skill strikes an enemy twice, each dealing 220% attack fire damage. The second attack has a 75% chance to inflict stun on them for 3 seconds. And then on the ultimate skill here, 720% attack fire damage to enemies within range, with a 75% chance to inflict recharging speed penalty on them for 10 seconds. So, I mean, kind of what you'd expect from a rare. A little bit of control and, well, just all about control, really. Maybe you could do some decent damage, we'll have to see. Next up, we've got Roberta, an Ice Blast rare. So the passive skill is what we'd expect with all Ice Blasts. So if she's got an Ice Crystal, she will repeat her battle skill. So her battle skill is shoots 2 projectiles at the enemy, each dealing 150% attack cold damage. This skill ignores 40% of the enemy's defense. If the skill consumes ice crystals, the projectiles will be enhanced, each dealing 180% attack cold damage. Obviously, the likelihood is it's going to consume an ice crystal, so you're going to be spamming that. On the ultimate skill, strikes the enemy within range 3 times, each dealing 250% attack cold damage, with a 75% chance to grant 1 stack of ice crystal to the hero. So not an enabler, so potentially a good rare damage option. We'll have to try that out. Next up, we've got Yelindra. So a necrosis support. Damage taken reduced by 25%. Okay, straight up. Nice passive. Battle skill strikes the enemy twice, each dealing 200% attack necrotic damage, and heals the hero by 350% of the attack. Then we've got the ultimate skill, moves to the enemy and strikes them 3 times, each dealing 250% attack necrotic damage, dispels 2 buffs from the enemy with a 100% chance to inflict buff prohibition for 10 seconds. This is going to be really good for things like Heretical Ruin, Ancient Battlefield, and especially Grave of Curse. Obviously, removing those buffs and facing buff prohibition as well is vital, but also, obviously, the hero takes reduced damage and heals herself, so it's not going to be a problem to keep her alive, so that's really cool to see. So, second last, we've got a Thunderbolt rare, Howdy. So, when the hero is on the battlefield, grants accuracy up, so 50 accuracy to all Thunderbolt allies. Then we've got battle skill, deals damage to the enemy twice, each dealing 200% attack lightning damage with a 50% chance to inflict electrocuted for 5 seconds. Then grants enlightenment up to all Thunderbolt allies for 10 seconds. Then deals 500% attack and 3000% enlightenment damage to nearby enemies with a 75% chance to inflict electrocuted on them for 5 seconds. I mean, that's quite interesting. Obviously, giving everybody accuracy is going to allow you to put more damage stats into the other builds for the rest of your team without worrying too much about accuracy. So there's a chance that Howdy could be a really good person to bring into a Thunderbolt team if they weren't so underwhelming. But maybe with the new changes they've brought in, the new additions in Season 4, maybe they're not so underwhelming. We'll have to wait and see. So now we've got Bronag, the last addition for Season 4. So we've got a poison hero. Passive skill, when dealing damage to enemies, the hero has a 50% chance to inflict 1 stack of poison on them for 15 seconds. Battle skill here, strikes an enemy twice, each dealing 120% attack poison damage. The hero gains attack speed up to 5 seconds. Obviously, that's going to help to get those poisons out from the passive skill. Next up, we've got the ultimate skill. The chance of inflicting poison through pilferage is increased to 100% for 10 seconds. Then strikes the enemy 5 times, each dealing 150% attack. So that's guaranteed to place 5 poisons, but then obviously you've got the extra duration as well, where anytime you deal damage, you're going to be placing a poison. So this is potentially an insanely good poison builder to obviously benefit your other heroes, like, for example, Dino. I can imagine a team of Bronag, Corrin and Dino potentially working quite well. That's probably something I'll test out. We might see some love to Poison finally. So that is all for the new Season 4 heroes. I wonder if heads are still rolling. Yep, they are. Okay. So yeah, I obviously will do some deep testing on all of these heroes, and I'll update our tier list as well in the next few days on hellhades.com. But that is all for this one. I just want to say once again a massive thank you to Dragonheir Silent Gods for sponsoring this video and for you guys for watching it. If you're interested in getting involved in the game, please do click the link in the description or the pinned comment and get involved. But other than that, I will see you in the next video where I'll be covering some more things all about Season 4.